Hello, hello. Welcome back, wonderful audience. Thank you to everybody who's been with us through the day. And there's actually quite a few of you. That's absolutely incredible. And for those of you who are just tuning in, you've landed right in the last track, the last session for the day on track 2, which is Signal over Slop. And you're tuned in to Full Circle Season 2, our 2-day Zero Fluff conference for small marketing teams trying to build brand in the age of AI slop. We've spent today and much of this previous track talking about how to create content that actually stands out instead of melting into the beige buffet of AI, which is all of our feeds right now and practically all of the internet. And if you were here with us earlier this morning, you might remember the vector video we played, the one where the marketer goes to, should I say, extreme lengths to capture a lead. Well, our next speaker is the man behind that absolutely unhinged masterpiece. We're ridiculously excited to welcome Luke Winter, who's the creative director and founder of Deadpan, and honestly, one of the most serious humans in B2B marketing. He's serious about being funny. With Luke, we're closing the day with something that feels risky to most B2B marketing teams, to be honest, but it shouldn't be, which is humor. Humor that's memorable, that's disarming, that actually makes you feel some feels. And Luke's going to show you how you can use that to your advantage as you build your brand. So he's going to walk us through why humor is commercially smart, how to find relatable audience truths and build recurring characters and running jokes with that. And most importantly, how even small teams can pull this off without actually needing a Hollywood budget. Luke, thank you so much for being here today with us. Over to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. Just to echo the seriousness, I'm that serious about this talk that I've actually kicked my girlfriend out of the hotel room here just for this talk. I'm in Thailand, it's midnight, and she's ready to go to bed, but this this matters. Could you share yours? Are you able to share your screen? I can't actually see the deck at
Yes,
the minute. Sorry.
I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to let everybody see your wonderful slides in just one moment.
Okay. So Full Circle have asked me to do a talk about making brands memorable, which is ironic because I've already forgot what I meant to say. But these slides will keep me on track, I think.
Okay, coming on your screen just now is Luke's presentation, and let's get cracking with that. Okay, Luke, over to you.
There I am with shorter hair. Okay, so title of my talk, Serious Business of Being Funny. In the short session that we got today, I promise I'm going to give you everything that I can on how you can use comedy in B2B to actually stand out and make memorable content. Make your brand in 2026 truly distinctive. And yeah, stop using AI. Not that you all will be, but I'm going to poo-poo why we shouldn't be using AI. A little bit about where you can use AI, but ultimately, we're going to go through several ways that you can stand out in a market of AI slop and generate good comedy ideas. And I'm known as the comedy guy in B2B, which is ironic because I'm not really here to make anyone laugh. I'm not actually that funny. I've got a very monotone voice. And the whole point of today is that the main message I want to communicate is humor is a strategically smart brand strategy. It's not decoration. It actually works in making your brand more memorable for the long haul. So if I could have the next slide, please. So today's 3 key takeaways, and if you remember these things, you're already going to be 95% ahead of other B2B content, because comedy in B2B marketing is relatively, in my opinion, an untapped market. So going in through to 2026, if you can remember these 3 things, you're going to be ahead of everybody else. So first up, why humor in B2B works for brand strategy, how you can build memorable content using truth, distinctiveness, and entertainment, and then I'll give you some frameworks of how you can actually start applying this comedy to your overall strategy. So let's start with the next slide, please. So the elephant in the room, this year's theme. Look, I think AI in the right hands can be used for some good stuff. I'm not fully on board with AI in video, although there are things like Sora that you can use to make good stuff now. The image on the right with the whatever's going on there with the rollerblades, I think AI has come a long way from that. It's made it effortless to create content, but it's not made it any easier to actually stand out. Um, you know, if everyone's making AI content, how are we all? How is anyone going to stand out? And I think a lot of AI content it's only good in the right hands. And I think if you're using AI to target your audience, especially at an introductory brand level, it's just pure lazy. Next slide, please. So this is me again. I just like showing you guys photos of myself, clearly. Why am I qualified to talk on any of this? Well, I don't actually know if I am, but I'm the writer, director, and founder at Deadpan. We're a B2B comedy agency making humorous content for B2B brands to stand out. I've won some awards and all that sort of stuff, but no one's really bothered about that. But if you give me the next slide, I didn't start in comedy. I actually started in I used to run a corporate video agency. I've worked with A-listers like Warwick Davis, David Gandy, for anybody who knows their male models. I didn't actually know who David Gandy was until I was on set, and all of a sudden this like chiseled guy with a six-pack turned up, and I was like, okay, I instantly my ego dropped. But yeah, we used to make really nice cinematic corporate videos at my old company. We had 5-star Google reviews. Everyone liked the content. The clients loved it. But to be totally honest, it absolutely failed to make an impact. If you give me the next slide, I'll show you why. This is a typical video that I used to make. It looks great. We spent months writing it, planning it, shooting it. Client loved it, but as you can see there, what's that? 234 views. They just don't really perform, and I think AI is kind of on par now with that sort of like corporate stuff. It's just noise. None of it really matters. Again, looking good is great, but it's not the same as being remembered. And in B2B, being remembered is the game to play. So if you give me the next slide, please.
When someone first hears that I work in...
Sorry, yeah,
when someone first hears...
One day, in my old agency, we decided to do something a little bit different. My target audience, and still is my target audience, is marketing managers. And we decided to have a little bit of fun. We interviewed a bunch of marketing managers. Some of you guys listening today might be able to relate to this. One of the common themes that came up was feeling like you've got way too much work to do. CEOs don't understand you. You're constantly given other pressures. You're juggling multiple things. So this analogy came up, and it was marketing managers wearing too many hats. So we'll go back a slide, and I'll just play you the video.
When someone first hears that I work in marketing, they just think I'm messing about on social media all day. But there's a little bit more to it than that. Because I'm part of a small team, I do find myself tackling things beyond what's in the job description. Everything from reporting, SEO, ads, events, looking for the will to live. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love a good challenge, but sometimes it feels impossible. Marketing Monday. You know, like trying to grow your reputation on LinkedIn without coming across like a right... I wish I could focus more on the creative and strategy more. You're on mute. So if a little venting means that I get to lighten the load, then bring on those passive-aggressive emails. No, I'm just kidding about the last part. Sort of.
Okay, so next slide, please. So this video pretty much changed everything for me. I realized that there was a huge gap in B2B comedy advertising to marketers. The video actually went viral. I hate that word, but it went viral, over 1 million views on LinkedIn organically. Comments like the ones that you can see here. People felt like they had been seen. Maybe some of you can relate. Collectively, between my agency and subsequently how this video has gone on to be used by another client of mine, it's generated over $300,000 in sales, and it costs less than 10K to make. And this is the moment that I realized that humor isn't risky if it's rooted in relatability. So yeah, we'll delve into a little bit more about how we actually went about making this. So have next slide, please. So now I sold my agency, the corporate agency, where we got 234 views on average for a video, some of which were from my mum. And now I run a comedy only agency. We literally just make B2B comedy ads. And if you can make people feel something, they're more likely to remember you. And that's ultimately the mission that we're on at Deadpan. Next slide, please. So this is the opportunity in B2B moving forward. It's called the showmanship era. For B2B, I think at the moment is in a little bit of a rock bottom sameness. You know, creating content that's corporate, that's using AI. You're looking the same as everybody else. And showmanship is, I believe, the pendulum is going to swing all the way the other way. So we've got all of these short AI corporate type videos, explainers, product demos. You've all seen them and you all scroll past them. The pendulum is going to swing the other way, and we're going to need to start entertaining our audience. The next slide, please. And this is what showmanship looks like. These are the features of showmanship marketing. It's characters acting, it's stories unfolding, it's using entertaining language, changes in facial expression, surprise, hummable tune, sound effects, people interacting. And it doesn't need to be, you don't need to have a Marvel budget to do this. It's about, using emotion and comedy to tell a story and stand out. Every major B2C brand does this, but B2B just hasn't caught up yet. And if you just switch to the other side, this is where we currently are. This is where I think we are. Sorry, next slide, please. This is where we currently are. In contrast, we have many words on screen, someone talking to camera, lots of B-roll, people walking down the corridors in slow motion, facts and figures, comparisons, useful information, which is actually arguably useless information if it's just getting scrolled past, and this is where AI is playing a part as well. It's being used. I actually saw an AI tool recently where it will generate, you upload like your brand, your logo, your color palette, some images, and it will make 200 videos for you. Like, who's watching that? 200 videos of like just nonsense. It's worth noting that this is salesmanship marketing, by the way, that we're used to. It has a place in part of a wider marketing content strategy, but it shouldn't be what you use to introduce your brand. And that's where a lot of people are making mistakes. If this is how someone first sees you, you've already lost them. Let me show you an example on the next slide of showmanship in action. So let's hope this loads.
Sure. Walk into a creepy house in the month of October. Great idea. No. Not now!
I was looking at GA4 and our attribution model says that we should move our entire marketing budget to branded search.
Oh my god!
saved you a spot. We're having a meeting about the last meeting.
A meeting for the sake of having a meeting.
What's wrong with you people?
Duncan?
Oh, hey, sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm gonna need board ready CAC payback numbers by tomorrow.
Are you me?
Happy Q4?
So this was a video that we made for a client of ours called Client Boost, as you could tell from the branding there. But the reason it worked is because it takes real pain points that the ICP feels, Slack ping stress, the need to create things at a last minute, reports and all that sort of stuff. Again, some of which maybe you guys relate to listening, but it's taking real pain points and turning them into something funny. And, not only, just to take the ego and the fun out of it, these stats here actually prove some of the methodology here. So here's the data behind it. So System 1 is a platform which tests ad performance. And as you can see from these stats here, they compared dull ads to ones that are more entertaining, ones that use some of these showmanship features that I talked about versus the dull features. And as you can see, entertaining ads massively outperform dull ones. You've got a 39% memory lift, so your brand's more likely to be remembered. You've got 2 times brand awareness lift and 2.8x image lift. So that's a figure which means that your brand is more liked by the viewer. So it's not about creative opinion, it's actual behavioral science. Next slide, please. And not only that, not only are you more memorable, more likable, more awareness, but the ads actually convert at 50% higher as well. So people don't scroll logically, they scroll emotionally. So if you make them laugh and feel something, they lean into the brand, they remember you, and if you make them bored, you're going to lose them. So as you can see, we're starting to paint a picture of getting behind comedy. So next slide, please. That animation was great, wasn't it? I spent ages doing that. What I'm trying to say is you can have your cake and eat it too. Selling your B2B product, your service doesn't have to be transactional. It can be a show. When you combine the two, your customers and the brand wins. Next slide, please. So what does this mean for B2B? So this is the real opportunity. At the minute, most B2B content sucks. It speaks in features, not feelings. It focuses on the logic. Could be made by any competitor if you just change the logo out half the time. It's forgettable formats like product shots, stock footage, UGC. We hear a lot about personal branding and positioning founders and stuff now, but if it's just somebody talking to camera, how memorable is that? How many of those have you actually seen? There's no character, there's no point of view. It's kind of like explainer first, which means that it's just hardly memorable. And so this is the opportunity in B2B. Very few brands, apart from Vector, who are today's sponsor, are leaning into entertainment. Entertaining ads are rooted in customers' pains. They bring an emotional angle. I mentioned humor, tension, silliness. They're a lot more recognizable. They're built around moments, not messages. Designed to make people actually feel something, more likely to convert, bring in an ROI, and be remembered for the long haul. So B2B humor isn't about jokes, it's about truth. Next slide, please. But some of you might be thinking this, humor still feels like a risk. Okay, next slide. These are some of the common fears that I often hear when it comes to humor. Next slide, please. things like our audience is too serious. What if it doesn't land? What if we can only do humor once a year, which is like a bugbear of mine, by the way. I know I showed you a Halloween campaign earlier, but Client Boost actually do comedy as part of their wider strategy. You know, if you're just bringing comedy out at Christmas, that's kind of like no point. You know, you're not really going to build anything long haul for that. And I'll talk a little bit about build in a little bit about how you can build comedy as part of a wider campaign. And to semi-quote Hermione here, a lot of people think my CEO will kill me or at worst expel me. But it's worth noting that these are all emotional fears. They come from uncertainty. There's no evidence. They're just a feeling. They're just kind of like, I'm a little bit scared to actually try this. You know, no one's ever said we've analyzed the data and we've proven that humor just doesn't work. You know, they say my CEO won't like it. We might offend somebody on LinkedIn. But if you do, you know, are they really someone that you want to work with anyway? But anyway, even if you are still scared of that, what I'm going to go through next, I've lost the presentation. What I'll go through next is ways that you can actually combat that. Here we are. So here's what humor in B2B actually is. It's not jokes. It's rooted in truth. We're taking pain points from your ICP. Like everyone knows their customers. You know what the relatable frustrations are without your product. I'm going to take that insight and emotional clarity and turn it into something that's actually entertaining. And that brings me on to next slide, please. So these are the 4 steps that I go through with my clients to ensure that humor actually lands. So we start with customer avatars. We all know who our audience is. As I mentioned, we know what their frustrations are, what their goals are, what they're trying to achieve in brand, both and personally. We then apply what's called the story brand formula, and I'll go into that a little bit in a second. And then we're gonna go through 5 different ways that we can actually create comedy ideas that you can literally go away and you can start doing tomorrow or later today if you're a maniac. And then we'll go into series structure, how you can create a sitcom for your brand with an example. This is my playbook. It works really well, and I'll go through each part with you, and hopefully you can come away with some good ideas. So next slide, please. Okay, this is my customer avatar. My target audience at Deadpan, who I want to work with, is Sophie. She's a B2B marketer. Maybe some of you can relate to some of her pain points, but little bit like the character that we saw in the Too Many Hats video. She's ambitious, but she's totally overworked. She's having to measure pipeline, brand growth, bring in revenue, sales, constantly juggling too many responsibilities. And if you don't understand who your version of Sophie is, you can't create content, in my opinion, that actually resonates with them. So most of you will already have an avatar, I imagine. If you don't, if you go on to the next slide, please, this is where you should start. So simple things like bio, job title, age range, location, industry, company size, what their budget is. But this is the most important thing, is actually then delving into their fears and frustrations. This is always where we start with comedy ideas. What slows them down? What stresses them out? What wastes time? Why is it stressful? Then we go into their goals and pressures. So what outcome are they expected to deliver in their role? Who's giving them the pressure from above? What actual tangible return do they need to bring in? Then you also need to think about their personal wants. So how do you make their life easier personally as well? Because this is one of the biggest drivers. I often find that a lot of B2B marketers that I work with are chasing more budget. They want credibility. They want to be promoted. They want, a lot of people are financially motivated. They want to be given a raise or become, move up to CMO or something like that. And we also need to understand their decision drivers. What convinces them that something's actually worth doing, and this first point is the North Star. So once you have this avatar, you're in a great place to start ideating. But before you do, just move on to the next slide. This is a common mistake that I find a lot of brands do with their marketing, particularly in B2B. They position themselves as the hero of their story, right? Forget about that. The hero of your story is the customer that we've just identified in that avatar, okay? Their villains are their frustrations and their pains. And the mission is what they want, both personally and on a brand level. And then you need to be the guide. So you're not Frodo, you need to be Gandalf. And for those that you haven't seen Lord of the Rings, I don't like it. I've got some other examples. What are they? Yeah, here we are. Devil Wears Prada. I think I've seen that once. But Andy is the hero in Devil Wears Prada. She has a monstrous boss, Miranda. I actually have seen Devil Wears Prada. I'm just trying to play it cool. Her mission is to survive to get that promotion, I think. And the guide is Nigel, right? The guy that helps her transform and become the best assistant. In Harry Potter, he's the hero. The villain is Voldemort. What he wants is to bring balance and all that sort of stuff to the wizarding world. And the guide, well, Harry has many guides, but let's say Dumbledore is the guide. You need to position yourself in, and this is not just in comedy ads, by the way. This is worth just remembering for all of your content in general. Position yourself as the guide, which helps your hero overcome the villain and succeed in their mission. If you want to learn more about this, I think that's kind of the baseline, but there's a really good book by Donald Miller called Building the Story Brand. But this is the next core thing in comedy ideation. So let's move into the next slide, which is 5 ways that you can actually start creating funny ideas. I'll go into each one in a little bit more detail, but this is the fun part. Now you understand your audience and you understand how you need to position yourselves in that narrative. Let's move into how you can actually play a part in that story, the fun bit. So we have comedic displacement, okay? Comedic displacement is you take your customer's real pain, take your avatar's real pain, and you show it in a completely different absurd scenario. So in this example that I'm about to show you, we have a marketing manager who has an annoying boss. Again, some of you may or may not relate. A CEO who doesn't get it. They're in dashboards. They're constantly got a shiny object syndrome. And the other examples might be a doctor making marketing diagnosis, a lawyer helping you appeal against MQL problems, therapists treating campaign trauma, that kind of stuff. But it works because the truth is that pain point. You're just then putting it in a different setting, which makes it funny. So let me show you this next example.
Remember, Jess, this is a safe space, okay? You can say it.
He thinks brand awareness is a waste of time.
Because awareness is just marketing for marketing, right?
When was the last time you've had a meaningful touch point?
I liked prospect's post on LinkedIn.
Oh my God.
I even retweeted him.
So last session, I gave you both a role reversal exercise. How did that go?
I let him run a campaign, like you asked.
Crushed it.
He panic paused it after 48 hours.
Last time it was 24.
Thank you.
Chris, that's still not good. Let's talk about intimacy. When was the last time you two looked into each other's eyes?
I mostly look at dashboards.
He only looks at me when metrics are down.
I do that.
All right, let's try something new. Jess, could you get behind Chris, please?
Should I A/B test this first?
No, just listen.
Ooh, he's not good at that part.
Repeat after me and fall. I value you beyond last touch attribution.
I value you beyond.
Oh, new KPI, key partnership injury. Same time next quarter?
If we must.
Nailed it. You retweeted my retweet.
It's worth noting that for comedic displacement to work, you have to play it completely straight. The joke comes from the comedic displacement, the unfamiliar scenario, but choosing a scenario that the audience already knows. So nobody in marketing, unless you have a huge problem in your hand, would go to couples therapy with their boss, right? So that's the comedic displacement. It's taking that relationship and that pain point, and then the comedy comes from moving it into a unfamiliar familiar scenario. Next up, we have another route, which is opposites. Now, I'm told that some of you guys have already seen one of the vector videos, but this is a great example of using opposites as a comedic tool. So opposites is about the clue is in the word. It's about using the opposite of what your product or service actually does. What your audience goes through without your product or service, exaggerated. So find something and then exaggerate it. So if your product is simple, show it in a world of chaos. If your product simplifies someone's life, think about really exaggerating the opposite of that. If your product reduces workload, show the customer's life before they have your product or service, where the workload is tripled, quadrupled, and they're absolutely like swimming in their workload. If your product prevents mistakes, spotlight the worst possible scenario and just exaggerate it, like just turn it up massively. And this is traditionally how it works in sitcoms that we all watch, like Friends and all that kind of stuff. They take something relatively simple and just kind of like turn up the humor. So let me show you another video from Vector here as an example of an opposite.
There she is. Director level. In market. Perfect ICP match. Hi, sorry. We're just branching out to new audiences lately.
Why were you creeping up on me like that?
You've been researching SaaS tools now lately, haven't you?
What?
Ha! No. It's just an ad. See?
This is the best way to guarantee your exact buyers end up in your ad audience.
What do you want from me?
Just a click.
The next best way is Vector.
That's not how marketing works.
Oh, that's not how marketing works.
Vector builds ad audiences from people who visit your site. Click your ads and research your competitors. No wasted spend, no guesswork, and no flashing them in broad daylight.
It's called awareness till you remember us.
Shout out to today's sponsor, by the way. So why does this work for Vector? It's because Vector is a platform which helps marketers actually get the ads in front of the right people, right? So the opposite of that is that people can't get ads in the right place. So what do they do instead? They physically turn up at someone's house and shove the ad in their face. So we actually made a whole series out of these. There's 4 episodes. They're all very funny. I encourage you to go and check them out. So that's opposites. That's another way you can do it. And then moving on to the next slide, we have metaphors. Now, I've already shown you one of these. I showed you the Too Many Hats video. But metaphors, I think, is one of the best ways that you can do comedy in B2B. It's also one of the easiest ones. And it's actually one of the ones that I enjoy the most. So hopefully you guys can come up with some good metaphors and let me know what they are for your own brand. So you take a real pain point and then you turn it into a physical, visual metaphor. So you saw a marketer wearing too many hats because she's got too much workload on. We created a whole series with this character, by the way, eventually, where she's also pulled in all directions. So as you can see there, she's physically got these ropes attached to her. So she's literally being pulled in all directions by different areas of work. And it just becomes this like physical nuisance to her. We also had her holding the hand of her agency. So we took the pain point of a lot of creative agencies are just a nightmare to work with. So why don't we have her literally have to hold their hand through a working day? We also had another one which was like chasing low-hanging fruit, and the low-hanging fruit is literally in the office in the way. So I won't show you another example, but metaphors are a powerful example because the audience instantly gets it. It also creates a really interesting visual, which is great for sort of hooking in the audience. So, with the Too Many Hats video, I dare say one of the reasons it was so successful was because in that first opening shot, you had this interesting visual tall stack of hats. So metaphors really opened the door for that kind of thing. Let's move on to the next one. So this is another one, associative thinking. Really not seeing this in B2B, but it works really well in B2C. And here's a good example of it. So Start with your topic, list everything connected with it, list associative words, things to do with your product and service, and spot like the unexpected combinations, or how one word could have like multiple different meanings. So this is a good example just to make it really simple. So Innocent Smoothies is it's a silly smoothie brand here in the UK. They make loads of different fruit brands, and they were bringing out a new breakfast smoothie. So they started with, okay, so we need a way of promoting this, and we can't just say we've got a new breakfast smoothie. That's really boring. So they went from breakfast items, what's in a breakfast, sausages, eggs, beans on toast. They stuck with beans. The creative director at Innocent, there was a Facebook page that he was aware of that was like beans in weird places, so that he already kind of knew that people weirdly like to see beans in like Croc shoes and stuff like that. And ended up doing a collab with Heinz Beans, where it was, this is our new breakfast smoothie. It's beans in a smoothie drink, which is obviously, it was actually never a real product. It was just a marketing stunt to actually, do the one with oats and stuff, which people would actually maybe drink. So do this, but in B2B. So say you've got a platform which specializes in optimization, you could start thinking of words like efficiency, speed. You could get from speed to racing to pit crews, like in Formula One, where they've got to like change the tires quickly. And then, that can then lead into demonstrating your product and its efficiency and all that kind of stuff. Next slide, please. Last one is parody. I don't know if you guys have seen, this is pretty obvious, this one. It's kind of like says it on the tin, but you take a recognizable genre, and this is a really simple one, by the way. A recognizable genre, a style, could be a TV show, it could be a game, it could be a film, something like that. And you basically just copy the shots. Doesn't need to be the same production value. But you just flip it and apply it to your brand, and it's actually a really good way of making your content seem really sophisticated, but it's actually really easy as well. Why I like this one, it's just so easy to do, and it just makes you seem smart. You're basically just stealing storytelling shortcuts that we already know work. I've got a good example of a parody that I did at my old company. We'll just play that now, please. So we basically parodied the scene from The Sixth Sense, where again, this is targeted at marketers, but this is like 8 years old, so it's not my finest work. But remember when the kid says, "I see dead people." Well, this is what we did with it.
When someone first hears that I work in marketing,
we didn't do that with it. That would have been a bad parody. Just give us a sec.
I want to tell you my secret now.
Okay.
I see bad corporate videos.
On companies' websites? While you're on YouTube? Bad corporate videos, like, that are too long? That have bad sound?
They just show people talking to a camera. They don't know they're bad.
How often do you see them?
All the time. They're everywhere.
Cut. So it only works because you rely on the audience having already seen like something really famous, but generally, like, a lot of people have seen The Sixth Sense, and if you haven't, then I don't want your business. Go watch Sixth Sense first. Move on to the next slide, please.
Okay.
Corporate videos.
Or we could watch it again. That might be funny. This is a great way to dip your toe in with comedy. I've showed you that comedy works. I've given you some statistics. I've showed you 5 different examples, but I know a lot of people will still feel apprehensive about getting started, or they might struggle to get CEOs to sort of like join in with on the bandwagon. So start with memes. Memes are a really lo-fi, low entry, free way of testing your comedy ideas, right? So here's 3 examples that relate to kind of a marketing audience, but they're fast, free, disposable, and if you post a meme and it starts to get engagement, you get some positive comments, you know that you then kind of, 1, you've tested the tone, 2, you can then potentially turn that idea into something that's actually more like on a video level. You know, you found the right comedic angle, and if it doesn't work, you've saved yourself a lot of time and budget, and you can just sort of try different ones. So let's go on to the next slide. I'm just going to show you now. This is a client that I'm currently working with. We've not started filming or anything. We're kind of at script level, but I want to show you how we got from all this 4-step process to actually create the final approach. So just started working with a B2B SaaS company called Swarmier. Their niche is engineering productivity. They have a platform which simplifies the life of an engineering manager. So that's their avatar. They're under constant pressure to predict the future with data that they don't have. Let's turn them into the hero of the story. So the engineering manager, that stays the same. Their villains are chaos, delays, invisible work. Their mission is to deliver, and their guide is Swarmier, that we, you know, the brand that we're actually working with, the one that helps guide them to complete their mission. So the pain and desire, again, remember to focus on these. These are the most important ones. I'm expected to know what's going on, but I don't. Okay, Swarmier gives you that, but at the minute they don't have Swarmier. Their desire is to have clarity without the guesswork. So we use associative thinking, also some metaphors. And this is the good thing about the comedy angles that I talked, you can kind of like combine them as well. Associative thinking, we turned it into visual metaphor and some comedic displacement. So the final approach is going to be a series of ads where the engineering manager is using tarot cards, crystal balls, sniffer dogs, seances to predict team performance until he's introduced to Swarmier. So I hope you can kind of see there how you can kind of start from something simple like your audience and then end up with something quite funny. So follow me on LinkedIn, and then hopefully in a couple of months you'll be able to see that come together. But just remember, the initial comedy is rooted in those pain points, in those truths. Conscious of time, so if you nip to the next slide, please. So you've done all that work. You land on a great idea. I don't want you to just think about, okay, I've got a great idea. I'll make some content around it, and then that's it. It's such a chore to get to that stage. You may as well turn it into a series. So what's working in B2B comedy, B2B content right now is using comedy as part of a series. Don't put all of your budget into one ad, split it and create, 4 or 5 different ads. So you create a sitcom for the brand. So this is what we did with Vector. You've seen 2 examples now. There are 2 more. Do go check them out. But repeat characters. Your audience has got something to come back to. It makes you more identifiable. They've already seen the face, and they're kind of like, well, what else are they up to now? Different running jokes, but kind of around the same theme. Familiar settings. You're building narrative momentum, and you're kind of like compounding on all that effort to create your brand to make your brand more memorable. And that's going to give you a lift over time. And it's also going to give you a quarter or half a year's worth of content, depending on how you structure that campaign. You can share episodes monthly or bi-weekly, depending on how many you go for. Next slide. Again, conscious of time, but this is do go check these out. This is a brand that's doing series really well. They're called Brooklyn Coffee Shop. They basically just have the same format in every single one of their episodes. It's these 2 kind of like sassy baristas, and each episode it's just a different customer coming in, and they just have these different interactions with all these different personalities, and it's really funny. This is how I want you to think about content for your brand. Let's go next slide. So to recap, we've talked about why humor works and is commercially smart. We've talked about how to find those relatable truths, and most of you will already know these anyway, but all you need to do is now exaggerate them. We've talked about ways to use those frameworks, like 5 different ways that you can create comedy, and why series then outperforms just one-off videos. So next slide. So remember, being boring in a world of AI slop is the new thing. This is it, isn't it? It ultimately, I think it's a brand killer. You're just wasting time using a tool for the sake of it. It's not really going to get you anywhere for the long haul. If you can combine humor with truth and something like a metaphor, you're going to make your brand a lot more instantly recognizable. And then just to quickly talk about how to get CEO buy-in on the next slide. A lot of brands struggle to get their CEOs to buy in, right? Don't go to your boss and say, I want to do a comedy campaign. You've instantly lost them. Go to them and say, here's something funny in our space or in B2B in a similar space. Doesn't necessarily have to be something that a competitor has done. Show them the example, but then show them the engagement, show them the comments, show them who's actually interacting with it, explain the results, and then talk about how you can backwards engineer that so it comes from a place of truth. So you show them how it goes, literally the steps that I've talked through, so that it's actually rooted in something that's actually tangible, it's actually real to your target audience. Position human as differentiation. Don't go in and say, I want to do something silly. Next slide. We're done. A few minutes over. Sorry about that.
Okay, thank you, Luke. That was massively entertaining, and I think we could have stayed on for a couple of more minutes to watch more of those hilarious videos that you showed us. So thank you so much for that. And
My girlfriend might tell you off for that. She's ready to go to bed.
Absolutely. I think we're going to have to take that conversation offline though. But thank you so very much. I think this was absolutely enlightening in the sense that for most of us as marketers, creating videos like this in and of itself as a project is such a huge, there's so much inertia around it, right? And I think you've broken it down into such simple, let's do it tomorrow sort of steps. And that takes away a lot of the initial reluctance to actually dive into a project like this. So thank you very much for that. Thank you very much for the laughs. Thank you very much for all the serious wisdom along with the laughs. Great, and thank you so much.
Comedy is situated in a place of seriousness. It's more science and psychology than it is jokes for the sake of it. So that's the main thing to remember. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do have a bunch of questions. I know that there were some that came up in the chat, but I also have some, and I don't think that we've got time for a lot of them. So okay. I will want to jump into one very quick question, which I think a lot of us had for, when it comes to the idea of creating series, right? And you say that one-off doesn't do as well as doing a series. How would people approach creating some of these series? Because a lot of these pain points that you talk about, you sort of tend to run out, right? After an ad or so. How do you sort of make something which can become a recurring trope across series?
I think it's worth noting that depending on your industry or what your business solves, what your product, what your solution is, the whole point is to get new customers, right? Every single one of those customers has the same pain points. They don't really change without working with you. So I always think that one of the most common mistakes that I see B2B marketers make is trying to find different things to say. It's not about, it's trying to find different ways of saying the same thing in a creative way. Like, we don't need to invent problems. We know what the problems are. We just need to find an entertaining way of saying it. So like the Vector series, for example, that you've seen 2 episodes of, she's doing the same thing. She's just showing ads in a different way. So but I guess what you could do if once you've done that series, even though I think, and I don't know if Vector would ever want to, but if Vector could make so many more ads like that, when we were on set making those ads, we had the actress said, what if we did like a Thanksgiving video and like, somebody brings out one of those like silver trays and you expect the turkey to be under it, and then we lift it up and my head's under, and like my head's there, and I'm like, like there's so that could be like a much bigger series. You could do Christmas campaigns, you could do all sorts with it. But I guess what I would say is, like, if you're going to do something different, if that campaign's okay, we did that, it's great, now we want to do something else, just go to one of the other 4 methods that I talked about. I think Jess at Vector, and I was as well, we were a little bit spoilt for choice. We had all sorts of different campaign ideas. I won't say what they are in case we ever actually do them. We want to keep it a bit of a surprise, but I believe go back to one of the other four routes and start. Don't invent new problems. You know what the problems are. You know who your customers are. Just find a different way of presenting this solution in a fun way, but not positioning yourself as the hero, still as the guide.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's all, unfortunately, that we have time for today, folks. Luke, once again, thank you ever so much for today's session. And thank you to everybody who joined us for day 1 of Full Circle Season 2. Day 1 is officially wrapped, but we'll be back tomorrow starting at 9:30 a.m. EST for even more slop-proof marketing. So go rest your marketing brains, eat something green, touch a non-keyboard surface. Meet us back here tomorrow for day 2, where we tackle distribution, brand systems, influencer strategy, and a lot more. See you tomorrow, everyone.
Bye, guys.